Hello my sweet friends, welcome back. Today we're doing something a little different, something that I haven't personally done before, but I just feel like now is the perfect moment. I'm gonna do book recommendations for Speak Now, Taylor's version, of course. Obviously, in honor of Speak Now, Taylor's version coming out, I thought this would just be such a fun idea. I'm gonna talk through the songs on the album and give you a book recommendation that I think matches either the vibe of the song or certain lyrics. I'll tell you a bit about what the book is about and obviously tell you why I chose it and why I think it represents that specific song. But there are a lot of tracks on this album, so we have a lot of book recommendations to talk through today. So let's just get straight into it. I'm gonna be going in track list order. So starting off, we have Mine. And the book that I chose for mine is Powerless by Elsie Silver. This is one of my favorite books. I love it so much. And the reason why I feel like this book really encapsulates mine is the lyric that says, the very iconic lyric, I feel like, that says, "You fell in love with a careless man's careful daughter. You are the best thing that's ever been mine." And the reason why I wanted to use Powerless is because our female main character, Sloane, she has a very controlling father. A father who just like kind of thinks that he is in charge of everything and in charge of Sloane's life and has basically just made all of her decisions for her and doesn't really keep her in mind, like doesn't care about what she wants, doesn't care about her and her well-being. He just makes decisions because they're good for business or because he thinks it's good for her reputation or for her status. And that means Sloane has just grown up as such a people pleaser and she thinks that she has to do what her dad says and has to kind of live this life that he has set up for her because that's the only life she's really ever known. And so when Jasper walks in and is kind of like, you don't have to do what he says, you don't have to live this life that he's decided for you, and just really like stands up for her, she's just like, oh, I don't have to live this life decided by this man who doesn't even care about me. And that's why I feel like it really matches the line, "You fell in love with a careless man's careful daughter," because Sloane is careful, she's a people pleaser, and her dad does not care about her specifically at all. He does care about other things, but he doesn't care about her. By the way, this is the third book in the Chestnut Springs series, childhood best friends to lovers, road trip. He's a hockey player, she's a ballet dancer. It's really good. Track number 2 is Sparks Fly, and this is the book I really think represents Sparks Fly, specifically because there's this lyric that says, "And lead me up the staircase, won't you whisper soft and slow, I'm captivated by you baby, like a fireworks show." When I heard this lyric, I was like, oh my gosh, there is a scene in this book that almost perfectly matches that lyric, a staircase scene, if you will. And I just feel like this song is so perfectly a certain couple in this series and in this book. And when they have this like staircase moment, it's such a pivotal point in their relationship and in their storyline and in their romance. And the fact that that line was in that song, I was like, this just matches so perfectly. And it's not even just that lyric. I feel like a lot of the lyrics match this couple really well. I don't want to tell you who the couple is because I don't want to spoil anything. But another one that really stood out to me was, "I'm on guard with the rest of the world, but it's no use with you." And I feel like the girl in this relationship specifically mentally really doesn't want to fall in love with this guy, but he has always been it for her. Like she has never been able to keep up her guard around him. She just kind of goes weak at the knees for him, like no matter what, no matter how much she tells herself that like she should go for someone else, whatever it may be, she just can't. He is just like her kryptonite. And so I feel like that song just matches this couple so well. And I love that couple so much. The next song is Back to December, and I feel like, again, this book matches this song so freaking well. Like, I could cry thinking about it because it is one of my favorite books, Happy Place by Emily Henry. This book is the epitome of Back to December. If you don't know what this book is about, it is about a couple who were together for years, Wynne and Harriet. They recently broke up, but every year they go on a vacation to this specific place with their friends, their group of friends. And this year they've decided that they're gonna go on this vacation, but they're gonna pretend that they haven't broken up just so that they don't like ruin the vacation for everyone who's going. So they're pretending to be together even though they're not, but you're reading from Harriet's point of view and she is still very much in love with Wynne, and being in her head you realize how much she misses him and how much she wishes they were still together. And as you read the book more, you realize obviously why they broke up and things that both sides did, and you can tell that there are just things that they both wish would have happened differently. And honestly, so many of the lyrics work so well for this book, but a few that really stood out to me were, "How's life? Tell me, how's your family? I haven't seen them in a while," because obviously they were together for so long, they were so integrated in each other's life. Harriet really loved Wynne's family, and obviously now she hasn't seen them in a while, hasn't talked to them in a while, and she really misses them because they became her family too. Another one that really stood out is the classic, "It turns out freedom ain't nothing but missing you, wishing I'd realized what I had when you were mine." speaks for itself. This is Back to December to a T. The next song is Speak Now, and this song is basically like when you're at the wedding and they say, speak now, forever hold your peace, and you're the person who speaks up because you're like, you can't marry that person, you should be with me instead. So it's kind of just about wanting someone who's not yours. And I feel like this is a if you know, you know kind of moment, but this song is so specifically Akamath, A Court of Mist and Fury. This is the second book in the Akatar series, and I'm not going to ruin it because it is a bit of a spoiler, but I'll just hint at it. And for all the girls that know, there's a wedding scene in this book where someone steps in, and I'm not going to say anything more than that. Specifically the lyric that says, don't say yes, run away now. I'll meet you when you're out of the church at the back door. Don't wait or say a single vow. You need to hear me out. And they said, speak now. So perfect for this specific scene in this book. The next song is the iconic Dear John. And by the way, I should have said this at the beginning. Obviously, every song can be interpreted differently, and I'm sure there are many other books that could match these songs. So if you don't agree with me, I really apologize. And obviously, you can have your own opinion. You can have your own books that speak to you when you hear these songs. This is just like my version and my thoughts. But for Dear John, I chose Reckless by Elsie Silver, which is the 4th book in the Chestnut Spring series. I don't have the physical copy, I read it on my Kindle, but Reckless centers around Winter and Theo. But before Winter even meets Theo, she is married to this man, and he is quite literally awful. Treats her badly, treats other people badly, but really just has such a superiority complex and just plays with her emotions and just like very manipulative, just awful. And so in my mind, Winter is singing this song to her ex-husband. The lyrics that I feel like I can imagine her literally screaming in her car listening to this song are, I lived in your chess game, but you changed the rules every day, wondering which version of you I might get on the phone tonight. There are like specific scenes where her ex-husband is trying to call her and trying to like stay in her life, trying to be super manipulative and just like still have that hold over her. And she just gets to this stage where she's like, you're not doing that anymore. Like, I'm not gonna let you have that hold over me anymore. Another lyric that stands out to me is, well, maybe it's me and my blind optimism to blame, or maybe it's you and your sick need to give love and then take it away. So perfect for their relationship, which is just so heartbreaking to think about, but Winter does get her happily ever after, as she should. The next song is Mean, and this was kind of hard for me to choose one for because I was like, what book really encapsulates the vibe of Mean? And I was like, you know what Carrie Soto does? Carrie Soto is back is about a tennis player who literally just like works her butt off to be the best. And I'm not gonna lie, when I started reading Carrie Soto, I was like, I'm not really sure how I feel about Carrie. She's a bit standoffish. She's not a super likable character. She's very blunt, very confident. I don't want to say full of herself, but she just is confident in herself, as she should be. But I feel like society has just taught us as women that we shouldn't be like that, and confident women are rude, but confident men are good. And this book portrayed that theme, and just like the theme of how women are portrayed in the media, all of those sorts of things. It just did such a good job of that. And there are many times throughout this book where you read articles or interviews or news reporter type of situations where you read about the way that these people in the media talk about Carrie, and they talk about her confidence and how she comes across as rude, and how as women get older they shouldn't be, you know, athletes, they should be mums, they should be wives, whatever it may be. And Carrie just doesn't match that expectation for women. So some of the lines that stood out for me from this song were, you with your switching sides and your wildfire lies and your humiliation. You have pointed out my flaws again as if I don't already see them. I walk with my head down trying to block you out because I'll never impress you. It's like the classic case of you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. Like, Carrie Soto would never be able to impress these news reporters and the media, because if she plays badly in her tennis match over the weekend, they talk about everything she did wrong. But if she plays well, they'll just decide to talk about how rude she was, or how what she was wearing was bad, or like just stupid stuff. And I feel like Carrie would totally sing the lines of this song, especially the end where it just says, and all you are is mean and a liar and pathetic and a loaded life and mean. Like, I can just imagine her singing this to the media, to any of the haters in her life, because she has so many, and she's just not the type of person to back down and let other people's opinions of her rule her life. And I love that about Carrie. So Mean is Carrie's song to me. The next song is The Story of Us, and I decided to pair that with Highly Suspicious and Unfairly Cute. This book is a YA rom-com. I actually just read it very recently, and it's about Brad and Celine, who grew up being best friends because their mums were best friends, and then they had an argument and now they are not best friends, they're enemies, and they just really don't like each other. But there's a part of them that really wishes that they still had the friendship that they previously did. And in this song, Taylor is kind of saying things like, I don't know how we ended up where we are. It was just a miscommunication. I wish we could get back to where we were, but now our situation is just like, we're a mess. And I feel like that is the epitome of this book. Part of the song says, a simple complication, miscommunication leads to fallout. Perfect. So many things that I wish you knew, so many walls up I can't break through, and now I'm standing alone in a crowded room and we're not speaking. So again, like a situation where they're in classes together or they're at certain events together and they're just like not talking because of this stupid one miscommunication, bad argument that they had years ago. And the story of us looks a lot like a tragedy now. Again, very perfectly this. Also, tell me why it's so hard to read these lyrics instead of singing them. Like, part of me just wants to belt them out, but I will not be singing on the internet. We will not be doing that. So reading them / speaking them, much better for all of us. The next song on the album is Never Grow Up, and this is the one song that I didn't have a book that perfectly matched, at least in my opinion. I don't have a book recommendation for that song. I really apologize. But the next song is Enchanted, and I have two books that really stood out to me to match with Enchanted, and these are Practice Makes Perfect and The Summer of Broken Rules. I feel like both of these books, I could just imagine the main character singing these lyrics, belting it out. If you haven't read The Summer I Turned Pretty and you love Taylor Swift, you need to read it because it is so Taylor Swift coded. There are so many references, which is so freaking fun. And then in Practice Makes Perfect, I could just totally imagine our female main character singing along to this. She just feels like she is an enchanted girly to me. The next song is Better Than Revenge, which is such a fun song, and I have the perfect book to match this song, and that is Tiny Pretty Things. If you haven't heard me talk about this book, I read it kind of recently, and it is just so perfectly this song. Every single line of this song, I'm like, I think this book is technically classified as YA mystery, but I would say it's much more of like a drama. It's set at this really prestigious New York City ballet school, and all of the girls just want to be the best. You read from 3 girls' point of views, and there's this one specific girl who I feel like almost could have written this song. She is the popular girl. She is the one who gets all of the best solos, and then at the start of another school year, a new girl comes in and kind of just takes everything from her. And I guess you could say she's out for revenge. Some of the lyrics that stood out from this one are, I underestimated just who I was dealing with. She had to know the pain was beating on me like a drum. She underestimated just who she was stealing from. And the other one that really stood out was, soon she's gonna find stealing other people's toys on the playground won't make you many friends. She should keep in mind there is nothing I do better than revenge. And again, I feel like that line could have been written in this girl's POV because she says things so similar to that in her chapters, and she is literally the queen of revenge. It's kind of terrifying. So if you want to read a book that matches the vibe of that song, definitely read this. The next song is Innocent, and the book that I chose to pair with this is Addicted to You, or any of the books in the Addicted series. This series is about Lily and Lo, who are both addicts. They just have really heartbreaking stories, but they also have a really beautiful love story. If you haven't read this series, I could not recommend it enough. It is one of my favorite series of all time, and I could just imagine either Lily singing this to Lo or Lo singing this to Lily when they are just really dealing with their addictions and really struggling with their addictions. The line that really stood out to me so much was, who you are is not where you've been, you're still an innocent, because obviously throughout the process of this series, they're both really trying to overcome their addictions. And sometimes it's a 1 step forward, 3 steps back type of situation with addiction, and you really get to see their journey with that throughout this story. So I feel like I could imagine them singing this to each other, kind of just like, just because you stuffed up one time doesn't mean you're an awful person. Just because you're struggling with this doesn't mean that you're not worthy of love. Like, who you are is not where you've been, it's where you're at now and what you're trying to be now. Oh, I could cry just thinking about it. The next song is Haunted, and I have decided Magnolia Parks. I couldn't not bring this book up in one of these songs, but this song specifically, just, again, every single lyric feels like it could be part of their story, because if you haven't heard of Magnolia Parks, it's my favorite book of all time, my favorite series of all time, but it is very toxic. It's about a couple who are very back and forth, a lot of miscommunication. They don't really necessarily treat each other the best. They have a lot of history, a lot of just bad situations, but they also really, really, really love each other, even though sometimes it's hard to see. Some of the lyrics that stood out to me for this one are, don't leave me like this, I thought I had you figured out, can't breathe whenever you're gone. I feel like can't breathe whenever you're gone, I feel like like that literally could be a quote from this book. Like if I read that in this book, I wouldn't bat an eye because it feels like something that BJ would say about Magnolia or vice versa. Another one is, he will try to take away my pain and he just might make me smile, but this whole time I'm wishing he was you instead. Both Magnolia and BJ have unhealthy coping mechanisms, but one of Magnolia's is just like being a serial dater, just like dating all of these guys, and I feel like that line just really stood out to me for her. And then this one really breaks my heart. Holding my breath, won't see you again. Something keeps me holding on to nothing. There is just something within them that cannot separate from each other. They just have these soul ties to each other. They are so ingrained in each other's lives and in each other's hearts that they just, no matter how much they try and stay away from each other, they just literally can't. And I feel like that line, something keeps me holding on to nothing, is literally them to a T. Moving on. This one I'm not going to say too much about, but the song is Last Kiss, and I have to say, if he had been with me. I'm not going to say too much more than that. I'm just going to read the lyric that really stood out to me. I never thought we'd have a last kiss. I never imagined we'd end up like this. Your name forever, the name on my lips. Yeah, if you want to cry, read this book. The next song is Long Live, and this is one of my favorites. I love this song so much, and I feel like this song is 100% Kingdom of Ash, which is the last book in the Throne of Glass series. If you haven't heard of the Throne of Glass series, it is an 8-book series, and by the time you get to the end, you are just like so invested in these characters, in their storyline. I feel like you go to hell and back throughout this series, but I love it so much, and I feel like I can just imagine all of the characters at the end of this book just kind of looking over their journey together and looking over everything and singing the lines to this song. Again, it feels like every lyric could kind of represent them, but some of the ones that stood out to me were, long live the walls we crashed through, how the kingdom lights shine just for me and you. I was screaming, long live all the magic we made, and bring on all the pretenders, one day will be remembered. Literally them to a T. And the cynics were outraged, screaming this is absurd, because for a moment a band of thieves in ripped up jeans got to rule the world. Again, like all of the characters in this book are so unqualified for what they have to deal with, but they make it work, and they literally just prove everyone and everything wrong. I could cry reading this next one. Promise me this, that you'll stand by me forever, but if, God forbid, fate should step in and force us into a goodbye, if you have children someday, when they point to the pictures, please tell them my name, tell them how the crowds went wild, tell them how I hope they shine. Crying, screaming, throwing up. Moving on. The next song is Ours, and I feel like this lyric specifically that says, don't you worry your pretty little mind, people throw rocks at things that shine, and life makes love look hard. The stakes are high, the water's rough, but this love is ours is so perfectly the happily ever after playlist. I really, really love this book. This book is about a girl who meets this guy who is famous, and because he is famous, they really have to fight for their relationship in a very different way to, I feel like, just normal people, because obviously he's going on tour, he is surrounded by celebrities all the time, he has girls literally like throwing themselves at him constantly, and our female main character is just like a normal girl, and so she really has to like struggle with this whole concept of him being in the public eye and media making comments about him and paparazzi photos and like all of the things that come along with fame and the music industry. And I could just imagine the guy in this book singing this to Sloane, don't you worry your pretty little mind, people throw rocks at things that shine. Like he's literally a singer as well, so I feel like this could be his song, honestly. The next song is Superman, and I feel like this song is kind of about pining after someone and like wishing that they would be with you, but also recognizing that, I don't know, they have their own dreams and their own things to do, but just kind of thinking I'm gonna wait around for them and I'm gonna be here when they come back and hopefully they want me, which is kind of sad, honestly, thinking about it. But I feel like the book that I thought matched really well with that is Part of Your World, because I could really imagine Daniel singing this. Obviously you'd have to reverse all of the he's to she's and whatever else, but in this book we have Alexis, who is a doctor, and Daniel, who lives and works in this really small town, and they start a really unlikely relationship, but Alexis is just like really figuring herself out, figuring out what she wants from life. She's coming out of a long-term relationship, she doesn't know if she wants to be in one right now, and there's a lot of career pressure on her. Like there's a lot of stuff going on in Alexis's life, and I feel like Daniel could just totally sing this song for her, almost just being like, you go do what you need to do, but I'm gonna be here waiting for you because I believe in you, I believe in us, and I feel like what we've got is really something special. This is just the chorus, but I feel like it really works for their relationship. It says, I watched Superman fly away, you've got a busy day today, go save the world, I'll be around, and I watched Superman fly away, come back, I'll be with you someday, I'll be right here on the ground when you come back down. And I feel like Daniel's just kind of like, you do you figure out what you need to figure out, but I'll be here and I'm ready to love you whenever you are ready for me to love you. The next song is Electric Touch, and the book I chose for that is The Brawl by Daphne Perry. This is part of the Calamity Montana series, and it's a small town romance series full of interconnected standalones, and the reason why I specifically chose this book is because of the lyric, all I know is this could either break my heart or bring it back to life. Got a feeling your electric touch could fill this ghost town up with life. And I feel like that stood out to me because in this book, our main character Lark is like sworn off men. She's a single mom. She's had bad situations with guys in the past, and she's like, you know what? I'm done with love. I'm done with men. I'm just gonna be a good mom. I'm gonna be good at my job, and I'm gonna be a great friend, but like I don't need no man. And then this man shows up and she's like, maybe I need that man. And he is just like super persistent, super obsessed with her. We love to see it. And so I feel like that line just works so well for them. Like, all I know is this could either break my heart or bring it back to life. It really fits for Ronan and Lark. Then we have When Emma Falls in Love, another one of my absolute favorites. Probably, I don't know if this is my favorite Vault track, definitely one of my favorites. So the two books I chose for this song are Malibu Rising and Book Lovers. And the thing that these two books have in common is that both of them focus on an older sister. Specifically talking about Nina River in Malibu Rising. One part of this song says, she waits and takes her time because little Miss Sunshine always thinks it's gonna rain. And I feel like that is Nora from Book Lovers. She is a really strong and independent woman and kind of just like pretends she has no emotions because she's kind of pessimistic. She thinks that things are just gonna go wrong. She doesn't really feel like she deserves to have that little happily ever after because she's too busy. She's got other things to do and she doesn't have time for emotions almost. And then for Nina from Malibu Rising, I feel like the line that stood out for me, which also still works for Nora, is when Emma falls apart, it's when she's alone. She takes on the pain and bears it on her own. That is the epitome of Nina River. She is an older sister who is taking care of her 3 younger siblings, had to grow up way too fast, never really thinks that she deserves anything, takes some really crappy situations because she just doesn't think she deserves anything better, and really just feels like she has to hold it all together, has to hold her family together, has to look after everyone else's problems before she can look after her own. But behind the scenes, she is struggling. The next song is I Can See You, and I also have 2 books for this one. The first book is The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. If you've read this, you will understand what I'm referring to, because this song is kind of about like a forbidden love, being in love with someone that you probably shouldn't be, trying to find those hidden moments and those hidden opportunities to be alone with them and all of that sort of stuff. If you've read this, you know what I'm referring to, you know the love that I'm referring to. And I feel like the lyric that really stands out for me for this one is, but what would you do if I went to touch you now? What would you do if they never found us out? What would you do if we never made a sound? Just like that hidden forbidden love vibe is Evelyn Hugo. And then the other book that I have is The Cruel Prince, and the lyric that I think matches Cruel Prince so well is, I've been watching you for ages and I spend my time trying not to feel it. That is both of the characters in this book. And I know a lot of people say that there's like not really much romance in this series, but I think it's like the perfect amount. There's a lot of political intrigue and there's a lot of like main actual plot happening, but the romance in this is just like so perfectly done to me. Like they hate each other, but they can't stop thinking about each other, and it's so good. It's so good. I think about the characters in this book often. The next song is Castles Crumbling, and the book I chose for that is Throne of Glass. I don't want to say too much because I don't want to ruin it, but Throne of Glass starts off with an assassin named Selena, and she's basically in a death camp. Like she is at rock bottom. And I feel like this song is kind of just the idea of, I am watching everything I've ever worked for fall apart. Like I am at rock bottom. And so I feel like that's why it really suits the start of this book, where you have Selena just being like, what am I even living for at this point? And the more you read this series and the further you get into it, the more you'll even understand like the depths of what she worked so hard for and like the journey that she has been on. But the lyric that I had for this one is, once I had an empire in a golden age, I was held up so high I used to be great. They used to cheer when they saw my face. Now I fear I have fallen from grace. The next song is Foolish One, and the book that I chose to match that is Yours Truly by Abby Jimenez. This is another one where this song is specifically referring to kind of like the start of this book, where our main character Brianna is just, again, kind of like rock bottom. Like everything in her life is kind of falling apart. She's going through a divorce because her husband did some pretty bad things, and really just like he ruined their relationship. And so now she just feels like she's picking up all the pieces of this life that she thought she was building, but it all turned out to just be a bit of a waste of time almost. And that, well, at least like that's how she's feeling. And I could just imagine her singing this song at the beginning of this book, just being like, what have I done? Like, why have I spent all of this time with this terrible person, and why have I been such an idiot letting him get away with it? So the lyrics I have for this one are, now I'm sliding down the wall with my head in my hands, saying how could I not see the signs? That is this book to a T, because you've got her on your arm and me in the wings. I'll get your longing glances, but she'll get your ring. There's an elevator scene in this. If you know what I'm talking about, you know what I'm talking about. The ring, the moment she realizes, and she's just like, and you'll say you had the best of intentions, and maybe I will finally learn my lesson. Which is honestly so sad when I think about Brianna kind of being in this situation, but she does get a happily ever after, so we love that for her. And then the last song on the album is Timeless, which is definitely another favorite of mine. I don't think this song as a whole encapsulates this book, but there was a specific line that I feel like works so well with this book, so bear with me for a second. The two lyrics that really stood out to me and I feel like really match this book are, and somehow I know that you and I would have found each other in another life. In another life, you still would have turned my head if we'd met on a crowded street in 1944. And the lyric that says, even in a different life, you still would have been mine. We would have been timeless. And the book that I feel like matches this so well is Daisy Hates a Great Undoing. And in this book, you're reading from 3 POVs. We have Daisy, Christian, and Julian. And Julian, he broke my heart when I read his POV in this book. Like, his story, his thoughts, his love for the person that he loves in this book, like, it is so hard to read. And he says this specific line in the book, in another life, I reckon I could have loved you. Never mind that I already loved her in this one. And I feel like that is giving timeless vibes. Like, he wishes he could love her. He wishes it could be that simple, but it's just not. And if things were different and they met in another life, maybe he could have like had his dream and everything could have worked out perfectly, but it's just not the case. So I know it doesn't match this song perfectly because this song is more about, you feel like this person is your soulmate. You feel like you could have met them in every single life and every single parallel universe there is, and they still would have been the one for you. But I feel like in this scenario, it's more of Julian kind of being like, I wish things could be different. I wish we were in this other life because I really think we could have had something, but he recognizes that that just isn't the case, which is literally heartbreaking, earth-shattering. I want to cry, but that is the last book that I have to talk about in this video. I feel like I've been talking for so long now, but I hope you guys got some good recommendations. I feel like I got to talk about some of my favorite books and some of my favorite songs, obviously. Let me know what your favorite song from Speak Now Taylor's version is. I would love to know. I have too many favorites actually. I love mine, I love Enchanted, I love Long Live, and then from the vault, I think either Timeless or When Emma Falls in Love. So I just mentioned like 10, but anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope you have a great day or night whenever you're watching this, and I will see you in my next video very soon. Goodbye.